podcast for Superman fans, hosted by Superman fans and focused around all things, you guessed it, Superman. After all, we are aspiring Kryptonians. From comics, TV, film and animation, each week we discuss our thoughts on the latest releases, news and even some retrospective reviews. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the Aspiring Kryptonians podcast. So I think it's actually been quite a while since we've been on air, this is a bit of a treat because we've got a little bit of a bonus episode for you this week. So this week I'm joined obviously by Dave and Sam as usual, but not only that, we have two very special guests joining us today. So firstly, introducing Kenny Porter. He is the writer for the upcoming series DC Mech and also the upcoming Superboy series that won this year's DC Round Robin tournament. And we're also joined by Baldemar Rivas, who is the artist for DC Mech. And yeah, his artwork is incredible and I can't wait for you to see it on the upcoming series. The pair have kindly given us the time to talk about both of those projects, as well as giving us a little bit of a masterclass on how to draw the perfect Superman DC Mech star, which I'm quite excited about. And as we sort of go through the interview, Baldemar is going to be drawing some of the iconic characters that we're going to meet in DC Mech, so that's quite exciting. So you get a little bit of a sneak peek as to what you can expect from the series. So before we get into the whole DC Mech's sort of part of the interview, I just wanted to talk about the very beginning. So what was your first introduction to Superman?
Oh, of course. So my first introduction to Superman was the Christopher Reeve movie because we had it on VHS. I watched that all the time along with the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman movie. So those two were constantly on all the time. So, people love to talk about Marlon Brando being in all these classic roles, but to me, he's always going to be Jor-El. In terms of acting, Christopher Reeve is always going to be my Superman, no matter what. I still kind of hear his voice along with Tim Daly in the animated stuff. And I bought Superman was one of the comics I used to buy in the shop all the time down the road from me. I remember, I think the first Superman comic I got was Death of Superman, just because it was everywhere. I loved the character beforehand, but that was the one that was just like readily available when I had money. And I recently reread the whole like new omnibus they have of it because I also wanted to read up on more Superboy stuff in his first introduction. So that was kind of my first introduction to Superman, was the movie. And then the comic shop just a couple blocks away from my house.
How about you, Baldemar?
Yeah, I was about to say the Christopher Reeve Superman was my first introduction. I only spoke Spanish, and we only got the Spanish channel, so my Superman was just always speaking in Spanish. But those old school movies is what I've grown up with. And then my second time seeing them in a different medium would be the animated TV show, the Superman animated TV show, which was really freaking cool. And yeah, man, that's pretty much what I grew up with. And I love the energy of the go-to happy Superman. That's my favorite type of Superman.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would agree with you on that one. So obviously, the whole Christopher Reeve genre was, almost, scarily, almost 50 years ago. So what's your relationship like with the character now? So are you still very much into the character, or have you sort of drifted away from it a little bit, or what's your experience now?
I'm still very much a Superman fan. I think I probably drifted away because I drifted away from superheroes for a little bit when I got a little bit older. Like I got more into I've always been a big DC person, but I got more like into the Vertigo type stuff, like the Swamp Thing, Hellblazer, and everything. And when I came back to superhero stuff and read like All-Star Superman and Superman for All Seasons and stuff, I like absolutely fell in love with him again. I've been keeping up on it, pretty much really consistently since Rebirth, and I love Philip Kennedy Johnson's Action Comics, which is really great, and I love Tom Taylor's current run with John as Superman too in the current Superman book. So really enjoy that. Oh, and Superman Up in the Sky too by Tom King.
That was great. That was great.
Absolutely great. I thought that was super fun. No pun intended. So I've kept up with the character since then. Obviously, like the New Frontier version is, hang on, it's mirrored. Is one of my favorites. I've got that Darwin Cook poster in the back. So yeah, I've kept up with the character forever, and I love him in all his incarnations. And I especially love Elseworlds versions of Superman. So that was a real big impetus of why I was so excited to work on this with Baldemar and do an Elseworlds Superman tale with DC Mech.
Yeah. How about you, Baldemar? Has your experience with Superman changed since your first introduction? Are you still very much into the character?
Yeah, I really like the positivity and it's a man that's super powerful and does whatever he can to help anyone around him, which is something I've always liked about the character. A character that's super powerful but has to hold back so much, I think is really fascinating. Someone gave me a copy of All-Star Superman, which I thought really highlighted what made Superman great. And yeah, I've always really liked Superman. I never really thought I would ever draw him professionally, so this is a big moment for me. Being able to create my own version of Superman with Kenny.
Well, this is it as well, because not only are you drawing Superman, but this is a completely different version. You've got a new suit, a new robotic suit, which we've never seen before. So you've really had sort of a lot of creative freedom in that sense.
Oh yeah, for his mech suit, it was the hardest mech to design. I think, like for Batman, it was definitely kind of easier because it's going to be like very chic and like cyberpunkish. But Superman's something completely different. You know, you want to show that's powerful, but at the same time, alien-esque and not too humanistic. So I went with more of a humanistic face for the robot and try to make him what can be a feature that can really stand out that's Superman, because I was going to make like the emblem the head, but it looked too weird, but I had to like just think about it for a really long time. But eventually I just went up with the spike, and over the years it got dinged up, and then he has that dinged curl as a dinged curl for that Superman mech.
We can just about see at the top of the background here. I put the DC Mech cover as the background, and you can just about see the curl that Baldemar was referring to there. As if it was planned. So just for those listening live, if you have any questions about the upcoming series or any questions for Kenny or Baldemar, please do send your questions in and we can put those live on air. Dave and Sam, do you have any Superman-centric questions before we get into the nitty-gritty on DC Mech?
Yeah, when it comes to Superman and a giant robot, it's definitely like has like I guess what I mainly wanted to ask is when did certain like design aspects of like of designing like robot faces to appear more human, do you ever feel like they sort of went out of style? Because like if you watch Superman and Lois, Steele's design in that is it's kind of like a sleek like metal thing, more like Iron Man sort of. Do you think like I mean, with like characters like Transformers or Gundams, like human faces have always been on like robots, and that just feels like a natural like design thing for a Superman one, because we always see like his face with as a superhero as well. Like it's good. I think it's more of a question for Baldemar, like designing the DC like mech of Superman. Did it have like any Transformers, Gundam like influence like that?
Oh yeah, most definitely, man. That was my research, was when I got the project that Kenny and Dave, the editor, hit me up with was, you want to design all these mechs? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm really down. And I got enough ahead of time, so I would be able to just watch a lot of anime and just a lot of mechs and trying to get under that, get the good feel of mechs. And watching a lot of Power Rangers and, like you said, Transformers as well. It had a really good balance of having that humanistic, robotic face that I try to do with Superman as well. So I'm glad that you noticed that for the Superman mech.
That's awesome. And a question for Kenny tying into the series as well. Like, while also like making homages to like series like that, like, you know, Power Rangers, Gundam, and Transformers. Is there anything like that unique on like your take on mechs and giant robots, like bringing something new to the table on like a genre that's been like done before and all some people are familiar with it and like enjoy it? Like, is there any like new twist you have on it, or it's okay, like, you know, it's a spoiler, you don't have to say?
Oh no, I'm good. So this was a really interesting and fun thing to do because I'm known as like the Gundam like mecha type guy to a lot of people. I've watched a ton. I think when Baldemar told me he bought one of the Gundam model kits at first, he was trying to describe it to me because he couldn't remember the name because he wasn't at home, and I was able to guess not only what kit he had, but I listed the imaginary serial number that the machinery had and all this stuff, just like knowing it off the top of my head. So right next to the DC universe, like Gundam is in my blood. And for this, the really unique thing I wanted to do was I didn't want to just take the regular characters and put them in giant robots. I wanted to really, with Baldemar, like craft a complete, unique universe that felt natural that these characters would end up in mechs instead of just being like superheroes jammed into them. So my approach with this was to kind of take the real robot genre, which is what Gundam started, where they're kind of like giant tanks with arms and legs, and mix a little bit of that super robot stuff, which is more like the Mazinga or Gigantor sort of thing, where anyone who would usually have powers is more like an enhanced pilot. So I tried to work their abilities as pilots into the suits, which was a real good reason, which we'll get into the story in a bit, but why I start the story in the Golden Age, because if you want a good set of how above human most of the pilots are, I'd say use the Golden Age of comics as like a power level set. So while Superman is more powerful than normal human, he's not at like Silver Age powers where he can do a ton of stuff and lift everything. Like he probably could fly on his own, but most of his power from his from a biological sense is used to power his mech, which we get into in the story, that the plugs to charge the engine and everything plug into him with yellow solar radiation. So like the Superman mech doesn't need an engine because he's the engine. That's how his parents designed it, knowing that he would go around. So we tried to also take inspiration from multiple different mech series and books because, you know, in the DC universe, like a lot of those characters came from different publishers and they had different backgrounds, whether it was like magic or science fiction. So we thought we should do the same thing with the mechs, where we shouldn't take inspiration from just Gundam or just Evangelion. Like, it makes sense that the Green Lanterns would take inspiration from Robotech because one of them would be a pilot. Like, you'd want something that's transformable. For Wonder Woman, that would be more of a sort of like Clash of the Titans, sort of like giant Ray Harryhausen, like statuesque sort of thing. For Superman, it would be more of a like Big O, like giant arms sort of thing, like Baldemar gave him, like alien type design. And for Batman, it would be very like swappable parts Gundam sort of thing, where like he's like, he doesn't even know the number that he's on in terms of iterations of changing it. And the Flash, like, we start at Mark III because like we've already in the past we've had a Jay Garrick version at some point, a Barry Allen version, and now Wally is piloting his own version. So we try to take inspiration from multiple areas because we knew that the characters built their mechs or were developed, you know, separately from each other, and they'd all come from different backgrounds. So that's a really cool thing we can do, where we can pull inspiration based on the character's history in the DC universe and add that DC universe flair to all that inspiration from all the different mech sources. So that was a long-winded answer, but I hope that.
No, good answer. I love how much detail you've put into the backstory of all of these robots as well, because obviously we've only read the first issue, which is out on the 26th of July. So we don't have that long to wait for everybody else to read it. But already, so I think in that one we were introduced to 3 of the Justice League, which is Batman, the Flash, and Superman. I think it's just those 3 for that one. But yeah, you can already see the level of detail that's gone into sort of picking the designs and all of the sort of unique influences on their suit. And like with the Flash one, I love how you say it's got this is Mark III, so you've got the other versions of the Flash. So it's obviously you've really built your own universe already within issue 1. Like it's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, when we started it, our editor Dave told me, he's like, when we started developing it, he was like, take a month, like come up with like a page or two. Like, I know you're gonna be excited about this stuff. Just like put your ideas down, we'll hash through it. I called him 5 days later, and I had 8 pages of like the history, how everything worked, what the mech suits would be, and I was like, let's go now. I'm gonna go now. So we did. So I've like, this has been a big labor of love, and like a lot of like both Baldemar and I have put a lot of thought into how everything works and what would be best for the story and the big emotional arcs.
Yeah, clearly. So, well, I've got a bit of an introduction to DC Mech. Obviously, we've been talking about it for quite a while, but so it's a miniseries which brings the DC universe into the genre of mecha anime. So issue 1 is set for release on the 26th of July, and it's going to be one of 6 issues. I'm not personally somebody that is hugely familiar with anime or the mecha anime genres, but as soon as I saw the huge Superman robot, that was enough to sort of reel me in. Like, I needed to know what was going to happen and what this whole storyline was going to be about, because the Superman robot, which me, Sam, and Dave have been talking off air, but it's very reminiscent to the Iron Giant for us.
Mm-hmm.
Was that part of your inspiration towards it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like there's no way you can do a giant robot with an S on his chest and not pay the homage to one of the best stealth Superman movies ever made. Cool.
But rather than me sort of babbling on what the series is about, obviously we've discussed that they have these robotic suits to sort of assist them with their daily labors. But can you sort of tell us a bit about what the series is about as a whole and where the robots fit into that?
Sure. So this is set in an alternate universe where right after World War II, after the JSA has helped win the battle against Nazi Germany, they're invaded by Darkseid's forces, who in this timeline are much bigger and are biomechanical, are about the size of skyscraper, or the size of a building, and they get absolutely stomped on. And without spoiling too much, like greatly changes the direction of the entire DC universe, where with this threat out there, everything needs to change, and like superheroes are outdated. Like we need to change the way that we protect this planet, which pivots into a whole new age of building mecha and mechanized warfare. And that really leads to our story with Kal-El, who is sent from Krypton in a mech designed by his parents to try to stop this threat, because it's been spreading all over the universe. So not only is Earth different because of this, like Darkseid is attacking and Apocalypse are attacking everywhere with these things. So the entire DC universe, no matter what planet, no matter what corner, has felt the effects of this difference in this timeline and alternate reality of, you know, mechanized giant warfare. So we start there and we go on an emotional journey of like a planet Earth that has been, you know, afraid of invasion from aliens since the 40s, like getting a new hero who arrives from another planet claiming to be there to help, and the tension that builds with that and the emotional journey they go on with the promises they made to protect the world or the future. So that's where we like really launch off with all these new characters, is a whole new status quo and a whole new introduction of Superman arriving in a way that he really hasn't before.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on the whole origin of Superman that you've introduced, because we were just saying off air then, but a lot of the times when we read sort of Elseworld Superman comics, the whole origin story can get a little bit repetitive, and you see these little tiny bits tweaked, but not quite enough. But this one was completely different to what I was expecting, to be honest. To be honest, I wasn't expecting an origin story to be within it, but it's good that it is, because it kind of explains the whole, the stakes of the series as a whole. But yeah, bravo on the origin story. So like you, I love an album story, so it's nice to see something completely different brought to the table.
Well, thank you so much, because that's the one thing I was like, if I have to do, because so many stories, like, I mean, if you're going to introduce Superman and Elseworlds thing, you have to do the origin, right? But the thing is like putting a new spin on it. So I was like, if we're going to introduce him, if Baldemar and I are going to do a big introduction to like a new type of Superman, like it needs to be memorable and it needs to be unique. And like not only do the plot points of it need to be unique, but like it needs to be part of his emotional journey of like coming to Earth to help at an age he doesn't usually arrive on Earth on, and finding that Earth maybe isn't so keen on the help of somebody like him. So I'm really glad that it really resonated with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to zoom in a little bit on what Baldemar is drawing here. So, Baldemar, do you want to talk us through what design you're doing there?
I like the Kryptonian look of having it go up his head. I've like seen that, like a type of New Gods Kryptonian vibe. So I wanted to go with that look. And like I said about the Christopher Reeves Superman movie, because I remember talking to Kenny, I'm like, how are we going to design the suit? And I'd be like, well, I think it'd be really freaking cool, man, if we have this white suit like Marlon Brando was wearing and in the original Superman movie. Just a super bright white suit. So that was, I think, would be really cool to have with the black emblem. And that way we have this contrast because he kind of butts heads a bit with Batman, which I think would be a really cool contrast of black and white.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So that was a big focal point for my Superman. And he definitely has a old school hairstyle. Once you take this part off, that you see later on in the comics. So it's a good callback to 80s Superman. So I'm excited for you guys to check that out. So we're just full of surprises.
I love all the homages that you're paying to the other Superman books that are out there. Obviously, this Baldemar mentions the hairstyle from the 80s, and yeah, there's a lot that you've pulled from different areas, but put your own spin on it, definitely.
Oh yeah, I really hope to. I really hope people like it. So yeah, just see how it goes. But, yeah.
So we've already sort of touched upon the fact that this series is in a different reality or a different universe. So was that quite refreshing for you as creators? Because obviously you had a bit more creative freedom, or did it put a bit more pressure on you because you had to create your own stories with these sort of iconic characters?
That's a great question. So it was very freeing in terms of like being able to tell a completely unique story that fit the emotional beats that we wanted to hit, especially with this type of Superman story. So it was very freeing to do that. I did know, and I think I noted in the script a few times, I would constantly apologize to Baldemar because we'd have to introduce new designs every 2 pages because I'd be like, I'm sorry, but it's time to include XYZ. And just off the top too, like, I know that there's a lot in issue 1 that we introduce. Like, there's a bunch of villains that get a quick spotlight. There's some fun characters. Issue 2, we introduce even more. Issue 3, there's even more. Like, no corner of the DCU is off limits. Like, much like New Frontier, like there's some deep dives of like people that it would make sense to have mech suits and stuff that will show up. But I would constantly put a note of just being like, I should have just recorded a video of me saying Baldemar, I'm sorry every single time because I was let off the chain to like go and create and bring whatever I wanted in or change the relationships and stuff. And then would tell Baldemar like, so now we got a whole redesign X, Y, and Z, and here's the influences we're going to bring in for those. So it was very freeing to know that like they were completely behind everything we were doing creatively and were really supportive of like taking big swings and making big changes and doing what was best for the story. So all of like Dave, our editor, was very supportive of it, and so was the whole team at DC.
Cool. So, well, if anything, it's probably with that in mind, with all the different redesigns and stuff, it was probably a bit more pressure on Baldemar than if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, drawing a whole universe, I feel, is a lot more easier because I get to create my own vision. So it didn't really feel like as much as work as just here's a piece of this universe of DC, play around with it, and you don't have to tell me twice. So I'm like, thank you. Yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. Yeah, hell yeah, let's just keep adding more things. And yeah, Kenny came with that enthusiasm, and when people come in with that enthusiasm that care so much, like it reflects off me. You know, I'm like, hell yeah, dude, I'm gonna draw a whole army battalion, awesome. And then I'm drawing, I'm like, oh yeah, this is nuts. But I'm in, and I love it. I love what I'm doing. This is such a fun project. Really proud of what we're doing for DC Mechs, and I just yeah, I love designing things, and hopefully everyone likes it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the designs are very unique, like we've said before, but yeah, I never thought of it like that. So I never realized that it would be, I wouldn't have thought it would have been easier to design your own universe rather than fit to one that's already sort of created. Because I suppose there's a lot of sort of limits as to what you can do with a character in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I feel like as long as we keep like the heart of the character, and showing what the character means, I feel like we can play around with how that character was raised in this environment. And because our Superman has a different type, like wasn't raised on Earth, so we gotta bring a different type of approach to him, and how would that affect his personality, and yeah, and stuff like that. So we definitely want to make sure that he's not every other Superman. He's a lot younger as well. So we wanted to show a different angle of this character, but at the same time, he's a Superman.
Yeah, that definitely comes across because there's a particular moment within the first issue where he's introduced and he's very excitable. It seems he's very sort of enthusiastic, whereas the rest of, well, obviously the Flash and Batman that we've met, they have a very different way of going about things compared to him, which I think is very clear. So it's going to be interesting to see how their sort of contrasts play about in the series itself.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that, because it's a big part of the story and their driving force of like learning to work as a team and everything, which we'll see coming up. So a lot of inspiration from some of my favorite Justice League runs and stuff in there, and shows like Baldemar mentioned, I'm a huge fan of the Bruce Timm series. Like that's one of my favorite interpretations of the DC universe. So I took a lot of inspiration from there, like Grant Morrison's JLA and everything. So I wanted to feel like this big iconic building of a team, but like when they're all, in their early 20s and have been doing it on their own, people are going to have some different opinions on how to enter a fight, especially this sort of thing.
Yeah. So there are aspects we've already touched upon this, but I just want to go into it a little bit deeper. But
Sure.
There are sort of aspects of it that really remind me of the Iron Giant, but also there are aspects that remind me of Pacific Rim. And I didn't actually put the connection together, but when Sam said Power Rangers, I definitely get that vibe to it. But how did you sort of go about picking and choosing the aspects of different genres that you wanted to include in this series for your characters?
Awesome question. Yeah. So first, like I kind of do with anything, I figured out like what the core emotional arc of the story was going to be. And then from there, that's where I kind of reverse engineered, like, okay, let's stop and think from like a technical standpoint, how everybody's mech suit would work, how they develop it. And then from there, I was like, okay, if Superman was going to fight like this, based on his personality and stuff and how he was going to pilot and how it worked, what would be like good visual language to show people that it operates and moves differently than the Batman one does, or the Flash one, or any of our other upcoming heroes that are going to show up issue 2 and 3. So a lot of those things like Pacific Rim and everything, or the Iron Giant, I thought about like visually how it would move on the page, and try to talk to Baldemar about that, about how we could like show people that even though they're all in the same universe, like all these machines would operate and move differently. Especially something like the Flash, where like his body is designed with his enhancements to take higher G forces and speeds and bursts with the machine. So that would move along the ground and everything differently than the Batman mech would drop into combat and stuff, for example. So a lot of those things like Pacific Rim and stuff, I thought about like trying to picture in my head while I was writing the pages and the panels and stuff, the scale and how it would feel, and trying to give that sort of information to Baldemar. So knowing that you guys were feeling that means that we did our job. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you, obviously you had the vision and you were sort of putting it together with each other in terms of the design and how everything was going to work, but how did you come about working together on the series? Was it something that you both had in mind and was like, look, we pitched this idea, or did you sort of come together separately?
We came together separately. Our editor, Dave, he came to me and said like, hey, like I'd been working on some other stuff for them. Like I'd written that new Flash series that's going to come out later this year. I'd started working on, I don't think I'd started working on Superboy at that point, but I was developing that idea. And he was like, hey, I have a title for you. And all he had was the title, DC Mech, and then like Superman being sent to Earth in a mech suit. And he's like, what would you do with that? And I was like, oh, I do a lot with that. So then that's where it led to that whole thing. So like really they had like, he had like the title and the sort of concept. It was like, we think this could be interesting, and we know you love giant robot stuff and you love the DC universe like deeply, and would like do a very thoughtful like new take on it. So then that's when I went and did the Madman like 8-page story Bible and everything. And afterwards, after we had worked it out, he was like, what do you think about bringing Baldemar on? Because Baldemar and I recently, we completely revamped Batman 1 Million for Batman Urban Legends. So that was the super far future Batman who is the prison warden of Pluto. And we revamped him and did another similar thing where I took inspiration from Tokusatsu stuff, because I'm a big Kamen Rider fan, which is similar to Power Rangers, but is more like a grasshopper armor sort of thing. Tends to be a little bit more violent, but Batman 1 Million's whole thing was like he had studied every version of Batman and had taken influence from him. So we revamped him and gave him a new suit that allowed him to switch visuals based on the fighting style he was going to use, which one of my favorite Kamen Riders does. Kamen Rider Decades switches between the old versions based on how he's going to fight. So they knew we could do really cool things with reinventing stuff and redesigning stuff. And so he asked if we want to work together on that. I said, yes, call him, because people really liked that. And then Baldemar thankfully said yes when we called and asked him, because he was in the middle of work. You were in the middle working on Robins at that point, right? Because you'd won the round robin the year before.
Yeah, I won the first round Robins, and then like when I was in the middle of that series, you guys tell me to do that, and I'm like, I said yes right away, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I really want to start working on this, but I feel super spoiled because I really love what I was doing then. But you guys are dangling like this big old full course meal in front of me, so it was just, yeah.
Yeah. We also didn't plan to be a team of both the people who won the round robins, but that's just how it shook out. Yeah.
This worked out for the best.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, Simon, do you have any more questions regarding the story of DC Mech?
I mean, not really. Most of you guys have covered some of the stuff I was curious about, especially how it came about and how you guys got involved. So that was just answered. But I know some of the things I picked up from this was, especially the Superman design, was kind of, and you mentioned Death of Superman as well. You know, he shows back up in Return in this black suit with a white emblem, and it's kind of interesting that he came back from dead in that, and in this he's showing up to save the day in a white suit with and it totally, I didn't even pick up on the white Kryptonian movie stuff until you said something. I felt kind of sheepish on that. I was kind of going like, oh, that's kind of a reverse from the Death of Superman. But no, it's that first issue was just mind blowing. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it.
Mhm.
Thank you, man. And the thing is, like, I feel like Superman needs to earn a lot of things, and I will say the suit is not finalized, and we'll be seeing a lot of changes there from a lot of growth of the character and earning these colors that I feel like maybe is too much. Spoilers, I guess.
We'll get there, but like,
But we thought
suffice
about
it to say, suffice it to say, like, similar to mecha stuff, like, no one's design is going to stay the same for the whole time. Like, people are going to upgrade, stuff is going to change based on story stuff. So there's definitely more to come in terms of the way everything looks.
Cool.
Which
And-
again, Baldemar, I'm so sorry that I put
Oh
back
no,
in
it's
there.
okay, man. It's my, I think the first thing I told you too was like, we need to have battle damage, man. Like, battle damage suits look so cool, like scars and everything. So that's going to be a big factor. And yeah, I knew what I was getting myself into.
Okay, I'll stop apologizing then. But yeah, battle damage is definitely one of the fun things we also get to do.
Cool. Also, I know you said it's very spoilerific, but I love that concept of him having to earn the colors. That's a great idea, and it makes a lot of sense with the white. But yeah, we've talked about the story itself quite a little bit, but the artwork is Baldemar. It's amazing. The action sequences, the style of art, the sort of vibrancy of it all, like, perfectly fits the story and the whole genre. I think it's really, I don't know, you can just look at it and sort of get a feel for what the whole story is about, and I think it's captured perfectly in your artwork.
Thank you very much. That means a lot. It's sometimes you're just in it for so long that you just don't know anymore, and then hearing something like that really does make my day. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. So in terms of, obviously you've been working on this project for a long time, and how is it sort of having to sit on it and not tell anybody about it until this point?
Rough.
Yeah, I will say it's the part I hate the most in the business is not being able to show what I'm doing to people. I'd be like, well, come back after a couple months and I can let you know.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Kenny.
I was gonna say, because we've been working on this for a year or more.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because like we had developed the idea, like Baldemar said, when he was still working on Robins, and then I've already written all the scripts. Like, it's done, like it's written and locked in. So Baldemar has them all to chew on. So like the story's been locked for a while. So like we've known from beginning to end everything that happens, and have just had to like stuff socks in our mouths so we wouldn't go like telling everybody what happens all the time. I'm just like, or wanting to show everyone all the different mech designs constantly, especially when like Baldemar sends us pages. Like he sent us some pages recently from issue 3, and I was like, I want to post this so bad and show everyone what this new stuff looks like, but everyone will see it in time. And we've been really fortunate though that people have really responded to the designs, and then all the awesome variant covers that Dan Moore has done for the Blueprint ones, and Ricardo Lopez Ortiz has done for the fun like Studio Trigger and theme type covers, and the Carl Kerschel one too. That's the like Superman standing on the shoulder, which is a really iconic like Gundam look. Like they've all been great, and so being able to see other people do Baldemar's designs has been really fun too.
Oh yeah, and
go on.
Oh, go on.
I was gonna say, has that been fun to see all the different versions of your design?
Yeah, it feels so cool seeing other artists like interpret your design and showcase in a different angle and just a different vibe. It just feels amazing because I remember talking about Kenny, talking to you and Dave the editor. We were talking about like how we wanted to do some. I wanted to do some like blueprint designs of the mech, and then Dave was like, "Yeah, man, Dan's already doing that." I'm like, "Hell yeah, dude! We're all just on the same page. We all have a certain idea of how we want to do an homage to Max and really, bring a good, show that we love this medium." And all these artists are doing a really good job, and I feel really spoiled, man, seeing all these people playing with my designs.
With the blueprint variant covers, obviously for issue 1 we've only seen the Batman one so far, but I love how they've done the size comparison, all the sort of breakdown on the weapons. It's so detailed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are really fun to do. We take Baldemar's designs and we send them to Dan, and then I write the copy for the little like blueprint stuff. And the ones coming up have some cool, unique things because everybody's blueprints are on different types of stuff. I think they've posted the Superman one, and I believe the Wonder Woman one.
Yeah.
So they posted the Wonder Woman one too, which is like done on like parchment or what would be like on an old Greek vase. With like the paintings, like Hercules style of like it being painted of what it would look like as if, Hephaestus sat and painted it on porcelain to like show what it would look like building it. So yeah, we're really excited for people to see all the different input and like writing those little points of like, this is how the armaments work and stuff. And this is the size comparison. And then me trying to figure out how much, I don't know why I put how much they weigh, because I got to kind of like put that in my head a little bit. There's one coming up where I had to do a lot of calculations. I was like, wow, how much would that weigh based on its size and stuff? But it's really fun.
I haven't actually seen the Wonder Woman or the Superman one yet, so I'm going to quickly Google that after the show. But
yeah.
So in terms of, obviously you've been waiting ages for this to be released, and you've been sitting on all your designs and all the work that you've done. In terms sort of as a creator, obviously you get positive reviews, but you also get negative ones. And I think quite recently, especially Superman comics have had a lot of negativity around it in terms of sort of critic feedback or reader feedback. How are you going to sort of take that? Are you going to take it with a pinch of salt, or what's your sort of way of dealing with those kinds of things?
For me, I understand that not everything is for everyone, and everyone's going to have different opinions. If it's not your cup of tea, that's fine. But I know that for the people who do like it and who like really love these characters, like they, as much as I do, like they want to see them in new situations. They want to see new takes on them. And I hope that this is kind of a more open door because, like I said, it's an alternate universe. Like this isn't the standard Batman, Superman, Flash, Wonder Woman, or even Darkseid. This is a whole different version of him. So it's new takes that anyone could come into, whether you're a big DC Universe fan or a Mecha fan and you're looking to get into the other one via conduit from the latter. If people, I know people have a lot of opinions on Superman and stuff. To me, the number one thing, I think I tweeted about this recently, that like you give him super strength, speed, freezing breath, whatever. But at the end of the day, Superman's most powerful thing is his empathy and like his willingness to help others. And no matter what the version of Superman that is, whether it's Clark, John, Connor, Kara, any version of Superman, Superboy, Supergirl they make in the future, like that's, no matter their other part of personality, like it's always comes down to empathy. Like that's the most important thing that they have. So that's what we're going to do with this version. And we hope it resonates with people. If it doesn't resonate with some people, that's cool. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I won't take it personally. But I just wanted to be out there for the people. Baldemar will take it personally.
No, I'm kidding.
I will. But I will. But yeah, I would say that just like the intention going in with anybody who ever works on this stuff is to tell something that they feel is true to them and everything. And hearing you guys like a little bit before the show and during the show, like gush about how much you love the issue, and knowing you guys are huge Superman fans and feeling like we did a version of Superman justice is the biggest compliment I could possibly get. Consider like you guys are big time Superman fans, so to know that we nailed it is a big compliment.
Yeah, you definitely did, and it's just it's a totally different version of Superman and the whole DC universe, but it's also the same. Do you know what I mean? It's different but the same, I think that's the strong sort of concept aspects of this series. Well, I think it's time that we learn how to draw the perfect Superman DC Mech style. I know Baldemar's been drawing away, and his creation here, which I'm going to show you now, is incredible.
Thank you.
So,
go on.
And so we've got a quick question from Anthony Slur. So, is this the Clark Kent version of Superman?
Yes, it is. It is Kal-El. He does not have the name Clark Kent at this point, though, for story reasons. But if you're asking if it's classic, like the Clark Kent Kal-El Superman, yes.
Okay.
Cool. In this timeline, yeah.
Awesome.
So what we're going to do is, for those that are listening afterwards or listening on devices where you can't see a video, you might want to try and find the video because you get to see how terrible our drawings are. But what we're going to do is Baldemar is going to talk us through step by step on how he's drawn this incredible Superman piece here. So we're going to draw along with him, and we're going to see what we come out with. I'm going to admit to you, I'm not the best drawer, and we've done this on the Aspiring Kryptonians podcast before, and mine don't really turn out the best. I haven't seen Sam and Dave's drawings as of yet. Kenny, if you draw along with us, I haven't seen your drawings either. But
okay, I'll do it.
Yeah?
Let me grab some paper. Yeah. No, this sounds great. I'm gonna do this.
Oh, you know what you're actually.
Just make some space for the paper. So for those that are listening live, feel free to draw along with us and be sure to tag us in your creations, and we can share some of those on social media. But like I said, Baldemar is going to walk us through the step-by-step of how to draw Superman. I'm going to make his screen larger so we can see better, but we're just going to follow along with him, and then at the end we get to share our designs, and he can choose which one is his favorite, which is no pressure on you, Baldemar.
Okay.
Feel free to pick your own. You don't have to pick ours.
Oh, yes.
Okay, cool. I win.
Wait, that's cheating.
I'm the best. Yeah, that sounds great. For Superman, you definitely want to start off with the oval, like with any other character. And for my version, I draw him with more of a wide-eyed. He's been around traveling the galaxy, so he's been seeing a lot of things, soaking a lot of information, and just really enjoying what he's been doing. But at the same time, he's got a goal of trying to stop a certain bad guy. So, would you say Kenny's like around 19, 17?
I don't think we call out the exact age, but I think we said, I think it does come. I mean, I don't want to spoil. Okay, so I wrote it a while ago. He's definitely between 19 and 21. Like he's early 20s.
Yeah, we'll say early 20s. So yeah, and then I always love a Superman with thick eyebrows. So we're gonna draw
luscious eyebrows.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay.
And straight nose. He's got a really powerful nose. I'm gonna draw him a bit like the robot nose. And a nice thin smile. Usually an OG Superman would be a lot thicker. But for our version, since he's a lot younger, he's a bit skinnier. So he's not on the thicker side yet.
Okay.
So you can, all the people that are listening right now can just hear pencils just scurrying across.
Going away, all of us, trying to keep up.
And then for that part, I usually go for like if it's going to be a bandana with that line on top of the eyebrows for my version of the Superman, and a line on the edges going down and like towards the nose part. I do a little hook line going down, and then a more mountain shape on top. That creates like a pointier or just more rounder chin. Then I go back on top and I finish off that bandana. And then draw some hair on the right side, maybe probably 2 spikes. 1 spike on the left. Do a whole roundabout and then connect. And that's my version of my Superman face.
So previously, when we've done these sort of draw along with Superman, the artist has said that the Superman is very thick and he has a lot of people have said that it's based around his neck. So his neck is obviously very thick normally. So how, obviously there's a reason for your different styling, because obviously this is a younger Superman, but what sort of gave you the inspiration to do that?
I always like character growth, so I want him to be thicker later on, but I like to show the progress of his training. So yeah, I wanted to start off kind of thinner and then slowly work his way. And then we want to make this character look a lot different. So by the end of our series, he's going to look very different from now. I'm trying to not go into like spoiler territories, but yeah. I feel like once you get in the neck part, you just go straight down. But for regular Superman, I would definitely go more rounder, meatier neck. But he's definitely just a more slender gentleman for now.
Yeah.
We should have given him the nickname the Slender Gentleman. I don't know why I didn't do that.
That would definitely fit with the anime vibes.
Yeah. The Slender Gentleman from space.
That sounds like a horror film.
Quick rewrite.
Yeah, that does actually sound like a horror movie. You might want to hold on to that for a different type of project.
Yeah, horror face for sure.
Okay, well, I don't have any pens, but are we ready to showcase what we've done?
Yeah,
I think so.
Okay, who wants to go first?
I'll go last. You guys are the hosts.
That's the walk of shame, like.
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
So let me.
All right. Yeah, got all the elements and stuff there. Yeah.
Not bad. Not great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to nominate. Oh, go on.
I like it a lot.
Cool. Maybe you can change your design to this one for the series going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the 4th issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam, go on. Let's see yours.
Yeah, I just have a bunch of attempts at the face, and it's not great. It's like, and there's a warm-up chick in there.
Hey, listen, I'm glad you did a warm-up. Like, that shows dedication.
Yeah.
A warm-up
I
chicken.
draw that chicken better than anything. Like school projects, like draw someone doing this, and it always be a chicken. It's like, Sam, these aren't people. It's a chicken. It's like it looks better than people.
I love that warm-up chicken. You obviously practiced that because the chicken's great.
It's like I have a whole technique for it. Yeah.
Dave, let's see yours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go. Let's see. Is that there? We are.
Everyone here's
All right. Yeah.
Everyone here nailed it.
And I like that you've done the different colors as well. You got the red and the black there. Nice.
Well, I was trying to do some inking right there at the end, so I could actually see that I wasn't just chicken scratching everywhere. But yeah.
Nice.
It's looking rad, man.
That's true.
All
right. My turn? Okay, here's mine.
Oh, well, there you go.
Damn, man.
You could have wrote
all
and
in the
drawn.
line work. It's all in the line work. That's what art is, I'm telling you.
That's amazing.
I haven't drawn in like 10 years, so I'm honestly pretty proud that I was able to do that.
Well, if I'm falling behind the book, you can just take over.
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah, I'll do a fill-in issue.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I think I know who the clear winner is, but Baldemar, do you want to pick whose is the best?
Kenny, those were pretty clean lines, man.
He's been practicing.
Thanks,
He knew
buddy. Yeah, I've spent the past week drawing one over and over and over, like preparing.
You just had on the side. Here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like in the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie where I was doing the costume over and over and Xing it out and stuff. Like, no, he's too big, like that, and then crossing that over and over.
Well, bravo, because that was very good. Very deserving winner. Well, Kenny, having you here and not talking about your other upcoming project, which of course is Superman, the Man of Tomorrow, would be a crime. So do you mind if we talk about that a little bit?
Sure. As long as Baldemar doesn't mind.
Oh no, I like.
Yeah.
Well, Baldemar can have a bit of a challenge. Do you want to do? I don't know if this spoils your series, then please don't do it. But do you want to do a Superboy version of your mech universe?
Oh,
Yeah, I'll see
that'd
if I
be
do
fun.
Well,
Yeah,
talking?
just go nuts with it, man. Do whatever you want to do with a Superboy sort of design.
You're not blind to do it then.
No, I just gotta go back. You can talk, Kenny.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hit it up. Let's talk Superboy, Man of Tomorrow.
Cool. So obviously the whole DC round robin thing I think it's a little bit brutal. It's amazing, but it's also brutal at the same time. I love that they give obviously the fans the opportunity to vote for their favorite stories, but there are so many great stories that get axed, and it obviously seems like a lot of work's been put into it ahead of the vote. So can you tell us a little bit about the process for it as a creator?
Sure. So first thing, which I don't know and a lot of people don't know, but we don't know the other pitches going in. So you only know the one you work on. So seeing them all listed, even in that first round where they didn't say anybody's names, I didn't know who made what. So I was also just like, oh, damn, I would also read all of these. So the fact that, especially because people know that I'm a big Green Lantern guy and I had to go against 2 different Green Lantern pitches, like, yeah, I was just like, not again. Like everybody knows I love all the lanterns. As much as I love Superman, so that was a little bit tough having to go against some of my other favorite types of characters. But yeah, it is like it's a really unique experience. Which with my experience with it, so as I mentioned kind of previously, like the Superboy idea, I'd been working on anyway. So that was something that I had already that I wanted to do because I really enjoyed Bendis's Young Justice run when they brought Connor back and how he'd been on Gemworld and stuff. And how they did this that unique thing where like everyone discovered after Doomsday Clock and Rebirth and stuff that the world had been rebooted or changed a bunch of times, and Connor had been left out and like unaffected by the reboot. So like he's coming back into a universe where like he is literally the ultimate outsider because the world has been rewritten without him. And because of that, like some people remember him, some people don't. So he always struggled with being an outsider, whether it was, because he's a clone or because he's part Lex Luthor or because he just doesn't know where he really fits in places. So I was like, that is a great launching point to bring him back and a great emotional thing to send him on of like, if I'm going to come back into this world where there's already there's 2 Supermen at this point, like Clark and John, and Kara's running around, like, where do I fit in? Like, where can I do good now that this is going on? So that was kind of the impetus for the story. And when I was asked, like, if I could do anything with an established character, what would I want to do? And I pitched that. And then my editor, Andrew, was like, would you like to do this in the round robin tournament? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, let's go. Like, I'm super behind it. So, it was really fun to have that submitted and then to see people really react to a story that was really personal for me to want to tell. Yeah.
Well, there's 3 or 4 different rounds. The first one, we literally just get the pitch. And then the second one, we get a bit of I can't remember if we get the preview out first or the creative teams first.
I think it was a cover and then the creative teams for round 2. And then round 3 was 1 page.
1 or 2.
And then and then it got bigger after that until it was the final round where I think it got to 5, and then in the last round it was 10 pages.
Yeah, cool. Well, I like how they sort of well, I do and I don't like how they sort of drip feed you the information, because
That's
it
kind
could
of
be that it could be that you go for a pitch and then it sounds good, but when it comes to fruition, it's not actually as good as it sounds. But in this case, we were talking about it every round for DC Round Robin when we were doing the podcast more frequently. But yeah, we love the idea, and I think even with Evan and Ashley aren't here now, but when I did the podcast with them, there was always seemed like they had a need for Superboy to come back, and I think this is a good opportunity, because we were always sort of questioning in this whole situation where you've got Superman on Warworld, John Kent sort of facing his own battles, and Kara facing her fight with Ruthier. Where is Connor Kent? So I think this series is going to answer all of those questions.
Yeah, and we're trying to, like, I made a lot of the challenge with this was I didn't want to just make it a Connor goes to space story. I wanted to expand it and kind of like at a Nightwing approach, give him a new sort of territory and a role that could be something he came up with that he thinks he could do good with a setup where he can go off and be his own hero and really grow and help people in the way that he would want to. And we all know that, like, he's a scrapper. And he's way more willing to get in there and throw a punch if somebody's getting bullied. So I think that lends very well to the artwork that Janoi Lindsay's doing, which is awesome. And then the very like Dragon Ball style sort of approach we're doing to the fights and everything, of just like Connor, like everybody else I mentioned, is like, he's very empathetic. He will take a hit for anybody who can't defend themselves. But he's also willing, after he takes that hit, to throw it right back at the person who was doing the bullying. So I felt like those sort of tones fit really well with him, and that sort of throwing him up against new villains and new comrades and threats and stuff was a really good way to grow him as a character, to get him out of the usual thing. Because, like I said, like, it was just that word association of like, this is a whole new universe that was made without him, and there's a whole universe out there that hasn't experienced him as a character or where he could do good.
Mm-hmm.
But it also feels like you're shining a bit of a light on how different he is to Superman. Obviously, he's within the Superman family, and he's got a lot of the same traits and same ways. But obviously, whereas Superman wouldn't necessarily take the hit and then give it back. This is what's interesting about Connor. It's a different level of Superman's ways, I guess.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's Superman by a way. His personality is just way different. We kind of we were talking about it in terms of characterization. If you think of the Superman family, and I know I'm going to say this, I did not think about the other ones, but this one was just the most most relevant. Of like, if you think about them as like the Ninja Turtles, like Connor is definitely like the Raphael of the group. Of like, he loves his family, will do anything to protect anybody, but like, he is going to womp on a bully. Yeah, like he's not going to let the bully get away with it.
You know what? I've never put those two sort of ideas together. The Superman family and the Ninja Turtles. Great.
Well, there's never been four at the same time. So
yeah, exactly. So
that's true, actually. Anthony again is asking a question. So, is Baldemar the artist for Superboy Man of Tomorrow? I really like what I see so far with the art that was online. I voted for it, and I love the drawing Connor myself, especially the spiky jacket and hair. No, so Baldemar is the artist for DC Mech, and Janoi Lindsay is the artist for Superboy Man of Tomorrow. And you'll like
she's doing a killer job.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I can see parts of Baldemar's version of Superboy, which is also great, which I'm going to show at the end. Well, I suppose everyone can kind of see a little glimpse of it, but you can't see it in full detail until the end. But for those that aren't familiar with Janoi's work, here's the cover for issue 1, which I love this cover. It's got his attitude, everything about it. I think it's perfect.
I was so excited when he showed me that, because we hadn't met before getting assigned to it and stuff. And he was like, "What do you think of this?" And I was like, "Buddy, that sells everything that I want in this in one single image of like him with the duffel bag over his shoulder, like going on like ultimate road trip. All the snark, all the sass, that awesome jacket, the patches and everything, the body language like completely sells it.
Yeah, definitely. So as each, obviously there's different rounds to DC Round Robin. As each round went on, how did you feel seeing that your pitch was getting closer and closer to the final?
I felt really grateful because so many people were so excited. Like, initially it was just text, so it was just like, we're taking Connor Kent in a new direction and everything. People are like, "Oh, it's so great to hear that Connor's coming back," and that like they're going to do something emotionally with him and everything. And then as the artwork came in, seeing people really resonate to Janoi's cover. And then the pages, especially like, and none of this is spoilers because those pages are up everywhere, but like the opening splash page of him catching the green car, which is like an homage to Action #1 and everything, but with him like snarkily being like, "Anybody drop a car," like sort of thing.
Wasn't there something to do with a coffee as well? He spilled someone's coffee or
yeah, he dropped his own.
Yeah.
He went to go get, and that's just like Connor's luck, is like he went to go get he and Mom and Pa Kent coffees, and he dropped his during the fight, of course, and then told him he drank his on the way because he didn't want them to feel bad that he didn't get his, because he's such a sweet. So he's a sweet boy. He just loves to scrap. But yeah, so that was a big part of it. Like, was people seeing his art and reacting to it and stuff. And like, I do love Round Robin, but man, the fans get vicious on each other between who's voting for which book and everything. And when it came down to the last two, like Zach and I are fans of each other, so we're friends. So we were both just like, "Hey, both books are great. Just vote for the one you want." Like, I think people wanted us to be like butting heads or like against each other, but we were both like, "They're great. They're both great. So just pick the one that you want." So when it came down between Superboy and Suicide Squad Dark, like, if anyone was expecting us to be at each other's throats, we were just gently patting each other on the back as a job well done. Yeah.
Brilliant. So obviously, Baldemar, you had a similar experience with Robin. So how did you feel as each round went towards your pitch?
I didn't have that. Well, I felt really nervous because we were going up. I saw the people and their creator teams because they did it slightly different from you, Kenny, the second time. But we saw like some of the roster of who's going up against who, and I didn't think we were gonna win, to be honest, because I saw some of those people like Phil Hester and Vanessa Del Rey and some other really good concepts. I was like, "Oh man, there's no way." But we just kept on winning, and I'm like, "Holy crap! Okay, this can happen." So I started, once the competition got further in, I had to draw 10 pages and color it and turn it in. So I really wanted to make sure that me and Tim came up with a good idea to show off that would help us win, like a good concept to really show off our ideas. And people voted. And did you go up against Suicide Squad 2, Kenny?
That was the final one. Was that your final one too? Was against
it was a Suicide Squad as well.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, we right before the semifinals, we went up against Green Lantern and we won by like double digits. It was crazy. It was so tight. Yeah, because we lost on because there's like 3 places to vote, but we got so many votes on Instagram that and then once they were all gathered, at the Instagram votes pushed us over, and we won. So it was super tight. And then we won the finals, and then we got started on the book. But it was a really fun experience to see a lot of people interacting and their thoughts on the project. But yeah, there's a lot of people that are very passionate for the Bat Family that I learned.
How much do you think adding Stephanie to your Robin's roster helped you get that win? A lot of people about her being a Robin, you know.
Yeah, because she was like Robin for a little bit, but like that was all Tim Seeley. So I'm like,
Okay.
I didn't really know that much about Stephanie Brown, but I put her in and I realized like, there's a big fan base for her, and people were excited to bring her in, and I had no idea that much about Stephanie Brown until I started working on that series. But I think it grabbed a lot of people to vote for us.
Yeah.
So that was a smart move. And she became one of my favorite people to draw in the Robins issue.
Oh, cool. With the whole, obviously you come up with the pitch. Do you have the 10 pages ready and done at that point, ready for them to release, or is it sort of step by step?
So with our, go ahead. You first, Baldemar.
Well, for me, it was we had the pitch, just a summary that I got, and then they just told me to create a piece of art. So I never like to just turn something in. I like to go bombastic, over the top. So I just like a really clean cover or like covered image, and then or like dope. It looks really cool. We're just gonna run with it, and I feel like that kind of really pushed the book further. And then like the semifinals, I think once I won the semifinals, then they pushed the 10 pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
For us, it was a little bit different. I think that they learned from last time, and it was a little bit more staggered. So we did the initial pitch and then decided what would happen. Okay, I don't know that everybody needed to do this, but I'm very big on, like I said, like making sure that all the emotional beats and stuff work. So even I needed to know what was going to happen in issue 1 if I was going to drip out pages to the artist so that it would all work later on if it got picked up. I remember my editor too being like, it's not guaranteed, right? I was like, yeah, I'm still going to do the work because I want to make sure that it works. So I think we wrote 5 pages just to be sure, just to be safe. And when we knew it looked like it was going to move to the next round, they had Janoi start. And then similarly, when it got a little further, I took my outline and I wrote the next 5 pages and got those loaded up so that he could work on those if it looked like we were going to overtake the voting, and it did. So it was a little bit more broken out that way so that the artist wouldn't have to draw all 10 pages at once.
But even still, the timelines between the progression of the next step and then obviously Janoi having to do the next 5 pages or the first 5 pages, there's not that much time, is there, really? Because it
was quick. Yeah. So it was like you'd have to at least do a page a day.
Jeez. Well, it obviously paid off in this case.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I'm very glad with the character choice. Like, we don't see enough Connor Kent since the 90s. He's come back a few times, but it hasn't really been a focus, or it's just a sort of a cameo appearance. So I can't wait to see him. And I think because Connor is very much from the 90s, and I think all of the Connor fans at the moment are the ones that know him from that Death of Superman run. So I think this might inspire a new era of fans for him, hopefully.
I hope so. Yeah, and a lot of people told me too that they know him more from Young Justice, like the cartoon show, which I also love, and that plays a lot into the stuff that Jeff Johns did in Teen Titans, in terms of that run, which I just reread that whole run too, which was really fun to do his research to write that off. It's doing his research to jump back in there. So all of that sort of stuff is in there, and those personality traits. So whether, like you said, they're a huge fan of Connor from his original stuff in the 90s, or if they're a fan of even the Young Justice animated stuff, like all those aspects of his personality are in there. And I'm trying, from what I've heard, it's working, but I'm trying to make this similar to DC Mech, like a great jumping on point of like, there is continuity going on, but I try to introduce Connor in a fun, immediate way so that you immediately get who he is and you get hooked in and want to read what's going to happen with this character, so that anybody can just pick up Superboy #1 and be like, okay, he's XYZ. This is what he's going through. I can jump right in. So hopefully that does it. And we get like we satisfy the long-time Connor fans and we get brand new Connor fans that come in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important as well, because obviously there are so many issues that feature Connor in the past, and sort of based on this timeline that you're working with, where Connor is against two Supermen, not against them, but alongside two Supermen. So it's quite important that people can jump on and be in that place, but also this could be an opportunity for them to think, oh, actually, I want to know what happened previously. Like they could go back as well as start from that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love to do that. So it's like personally, as like a huge comics reader, like I love to discover something new and jump in and then go back and reread stuff to add more context to it or to kind of get to know the character better. So if that helps people do that and just read more books, like I'm super on board.
Yeah, definitely. So what made you want to focus? Oh, sorry, go on, Sam.
I just one question, just like, because this kind of ties into the first like question we asked when we started, like, when did you first get into Superman? And you said Death of Superman, so that would mean like there soon after you were like introduced to Superboy. And, like,
it was very, very shortly after when I was able to buy the comics, which was really funny because like when I finally had money to buy comics and like I said, like loved the Keaton Batman movie and the Christopher Reeve Superman movie, and then I jump in and like the first couple of Batman issues I get are Nightfall that I'm able to buy, and I'm like, well, who the heck is this guy? Yeah, and then Superman, he's quickly dead and then replaced by four other ones. I was just like, I remember like asking my mom like, what's happening, and she's like, I don't know, like just I was buying them with my own money, so I just had to kind of figure it out on my own as a little kid, but. Yeah, so I was immediately introduced to Connor, so that was a big part of it, like him and John Henry Irons and Cyborg Superman and Eradicator and stuff. So I know that they're like ultra 90s, but they have a close place in my heart because that's when I was throwing down my own money and buying them.
Yeah, completely.
Is that experience what made you want to focus on this character in particular for your pitch?
Yeah, because I have a strong resonance with him, and I also just like I love stories about like outsiders and people who don't fit in. I feel like a lot of us all can relate to that sort of thing about feel like at any time in our lives feeling like that we don't really belong or that we wish that we could fit in better. And like Connor has always felt like that, and I feel like now's a really good time for him. Without spoiling too much, because some other stuff is going to go on in like the newer Young Justice, like Dark Crisis tie-in stuff and everything, of like him really coming to terms with the fact that like he's got to define himself in a different way than he has before and has to move on and discover himself. Like he's accepted the fact that he's a clone and everything, and that he's like half Clark, half Lex and everything like that. Part of him's moved on. It's like he knows who he is. Now he needs to know like what is he gonna do like to make the world better? Where can he fit in?
Yeah. So what was it like working with Janoi? So I'm assuming it was the same kind of situation where obviously you came up with the pitch and then Janoi was brought on a little bit later to do the artwork.
Yeah, exactly. So he was recommended by my editor Andrew, and I'd seen a little bit of Janoi stuff, but I hadn't seen anything recent. And he sent it over, and I thought it looked great. And then when he sent over that cover, I was like I said, chef's kiss. Absolutely loved it. Was all about it. And working with him, he is awesome about doing designs, doing takes on characters and stuff. And we have a similar back and forth that I have with Baldemar, where like I do pretty detailed, I guess not detailed, but I lay stuff out pretty clear in scripts, but I always tell everyone like, this is not the gospel. Change whatever you need to do in order to make it and to make it visually work and to put your own spin on it. And Janoi's not afraid to do that. And will often come up with like cool new ways to do stuff, similar with like Baldemar will do. So any artist I ever work with, I give them that thing. Like, this is how I played it out in my head. Again, it's not written in stone. Do what you need to do. And like Janoi puts his own spin on it, just like Baldemar does with the DC Mech stuff. So it's always out. So then when a page comes in, I'm like, oh, he drew that way better that I thought I described it. So and put his own spin on it and stuff, similar to what Baldemar's done on pages and stuff. So it's always really fun. That's one of my favorite things. It's like a mini Christmas when pages come in the inbox and you get to see how it was interpreted. It's so fun.
Well, because this series isn't as soon as DC Mech, so I don't want to spoil too much because I'm sure there's going to be more preview pages and more information that's going to sort of drip out as the time goes. But having done a little research, but all I can find is that the series is coming later this year. Is there any sort of set release dates yet, or is it still up in the air?
Not right now. I'm still writing it, so I'm writing issue 2 right now. But schedule wise, because we're going to have it fit in with some other stuff, we're kind of like on a sliding timeline. So it'll either be later this year or it might just get, for the greater sense of the universe, moved to next year. So we're actively working on it. But I think just when it fits best to drop it, that's when it'll drop. So when I know officially, I'll definitely be shouting it from the rooftops like I did for DC Mech, of just like, I pretty much traded one announcement button for another that my hand is just hanging over. So like the DC Mech one just slid out of the way, and now the Superboy one is right underneath it. Yeah.
Love it. And Anthony, that kind of answers your question. So DC Mech is out on the 26th of July. And yeah, there isn't a release date for Superboy just yet, but we're going to find out very soon. There's 6 issues for DC Mech, and I believe 6 issues for this Superboy series.
6 issues for Superboy as well.
So with, obviously, 6 issues is great, but if it's very popular, is there potential for sequels?
Yeah, I'd write it all day. I have stories like that I know I would want to tell with Connor after this in the new status quo and everything. So if DC's willing and the fans want it, like and they shout it from the rooftops and everything, like I will gladly. I can't tell you, like I'm having as much fun writing Superboy as I did DC Mech. Like I wrote pages this morning and it was like I was excited to wake up and grab my coffee and get down and write Connor pages because they're so much fun.
And I'm already saying I want a DC Mech sequel because I love the first issue.
Okay, well,
thank you very much.
Yeah, glad to hear it because I also have stories for that. Oh yeah, he says can't wait too. Yeah, DC Mech. The amount people are seeing is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of how much we have. Like, if people want a sequel, I already have the whole story for the sequel thought out. So
bring it on.
Yeah.
Yep.
No joke.
Absolutely.
Before we show Baldemar's amazing Superboy, which I can see in the corner here, do we have any more questions regarding Superboy or DC Mech? Dave?
I mean, you kind of teased a Nightwing analogy there at the beginning with Superboy. Are we going to see kind of a moniker change with Connor, or is he just going to, or is that too much? You can't say anything, or
can't say. I just know that it's my plan is more for a spiritual sort of Nightwing take on him, of like, Dick Grayson's transition to Nightwing is like one of my favorite parts of the DC universe, of like him earning it and like as a character made sense that, at an ideological standpoint, it's really like strangely like reverse flipped, because if you think about it, like Dick Grayson's the overly positive, like takes inspiration from like Superman as his buddy and stuff and goes out on his own when he butts heads with Bruce. And Connor in that sense is like similar to the Superman family, that like empathy's his greatest weapon and stuff, but he is much more of a scrapper and feels like he needs to be doing more like outside of the usual purview. So it's a perfect setup within both of their family dynamics of them to strike out and go get their own territory sort of thing, like as characters and as heroes.
Cool.
How about you, Sam?
I had this is a question that I should have asked earlier. It's a really general kind of question that both of you could answer. Who's in charge of onomatopoeias? Is that the writer or the artist? Because they do take up space and there's kind of like juxtaposition involved. Like it's just something I've always wondered. And Mac has some great onomatopoeias. I read comics for like of onomatopoeias and how much they pop and how much you could feel them. Like,
oh, that's awesome. You like that? Yeah, I put SFX like stuff in the script, but then sometimes Baldemar will put because I think and this has been in previews and stuff and in the animated. Did you guys see the animated trailer too that they did for it? Yeah, that was super fun. But they showed off like the shink like shuriken sounds of the bat blades coming out of the mech arm, and I believe Baldemar wrote that one and put that in, like drew it in.
Yeah.
Because that was a panel he added, like of those popping out. So there's another example of him doing something awesome I didn't think of. And then I write a lot of the other ones too. But like I'm always willing, like if an artist wants to hand draw sound effects over stuff, is always great. And you can. I was like, it's funny because I was having a discussion with some other comics writers the other day in a group chat, and they were like, "How do I write a car like revving up that isn't just vroom?" Like for like it's been in there, and I was like going and pulling like old Alex Toth pages of like some of the old racing comics he did, and I was like, you could do this and this and this. Like I think about sound effect stuff like way too much in terms of like ways to like make it read in your head and like pop and crackle and everything. So that's a very fun and unique example that you brought up.
Neat, awesome. Yeah, Mech is just full of like all the great metal sound effects, and it's great. Something like I've had Superman comics like usually from the New 52 with sound effects, and I swear I could feel my bones rattle from just reading it. It's crazy. Like not using onomatopoeias isn't that great. You can't get. It's not the same as using them. It really isn't.
It's one of the unique things about comics, man. That's so much fun is being able to put in those big sound effects and make them a part of the art and stuff, which I really love, like the old like Will Eisner Spirit stuff, or like the New 52 run on the Flash that Francis Manipul did, where he would make all of the sound effects like parts of the art and everything. Like I'm always a real big fan of doing that sort of stuff that only comics can do.
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely. And I just want to showcase what Baldemar has been drawing. So we challenged him to draw Superboy, Connor Kent Superboy, at the start of the discussion for Man of Tomorrow, but here's his take on the character, and I love it.
Oh my god, dude, it's awesome.
You got the glasses.
Yeah.
How did you draw that from memory as well? Yeah, you don't have any references in front of you. You literally just drawn that.
Working with DC, they make you draw a lot faster. There's a lot of tight deadlines, and I got a lot of you just got to be a lot faster. So that's one thing I'm very happy with DC is they're challenging me for sure.
Wow. No, that is amazing.
And thank you. Well, I'm glad you guys like it.
Like that. Yeah.
Aspiring Kryptonian exclusive right there.
Oh, yeah. If DC Mech 2 happens, then you have to introduce this version of Superboy. That's the deal.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to have that as his pilot jacket. So.
Oh, there you go.
That would be cool. And it'll be interesting to know what his robot version would look like as well. Obviously, don't draw it now.
That's true.
Don't draw it now,
well,
but obviously that would be cool.
I'll read Kenny's Superboy and see what I can come up with from that.
In terms of inspiration, cool. I would love to see your take on a Superboy mech. Like, I think that would be very fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, guys.
Well, I think we've wasted both of your time a little bit too much, but
not at all. This has been super fun. So
yeah, definitely. Firstly, thank you both for taking the time to be on the show and for being so supportive of the show as well, because it means a lot to us as comic fans and fans of your work to have you sort of discuss these upcoming projects and stories with us. It's great fun.
Well, it means a lot to us that you guys like wanted to have us, and then also all enjoyed DC Mech so much, especially because like we created that from nothing, and like built it up. So the fact that it's a whole new universe that's resonating with people, and especially like I said, like doing a new take and a unique take on Superman is hard, and we tried really hard to do that. The fact that it resonated with 3 of the biggest Superman fans on the planet means a lot. And then you guys like the rest of it. Yeah. and that you guys were also supportive of Superboy too means a lot to me. So like, thank you so much for having us, and doing the drawing stuff was fun too. So I've never gotten to do that on a podcast, so that was really fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. But I genuinely can't wait for these issues to come out. Obviously, we've read DC Mech 1, and I can wholeheartedly say it is great fun. It's action-packed, and I'm looking forward to the next issues from that series. Superboy, we obviously know the same as what you guys know. We've seen the preview pages, we've seen the cover, we've seen the pitch. I'm just looking forward to hearing more about that because I can't wait to see Connor Kent in action again. Mm-hmm. And just to give a quick shout out to those that support us on Patreon, which is patreon.com/The Aspiring Kryptonian. I know we're a little bit off grid compared to what we used to be, but honestly, we truly appreciate your support. And we will be doing special sort of episodes every now and then just to really focus our thoughts rather than giving you a general overview of everything. And to those listening and watching live, thank you so much for doing so, and I hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will see you next time, which will likely be a discussion for the review of DC's upcoming animated film, DC League of Super Pets. So we'll see you for episode 34, and again, thank you, Kenny, and thank you, Baldemar, for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much for having us.
No problem. Bye.
No.
Bye.
Absolute pleasure.